Thank you very much.
You got a chance to play young guys some snaps last week more than you have been. Where's Marion Dye? Where's Isaiah Campbell? Where do you think some of those young guys are as you move into this next portion of the schedule?
Well, obviously, those guys, they've got a tremendous skill set, but still just learning, the nuances of, playing D-line in this league. It's a tough league, and it's one where, you've got to rely on your fundamentals and your technique, and you've got to learn how to strain and finish where, you may have been in high school. Those guys usually were the best guys out there on the field, and they were able to get away with some things that may not have been fundamental, which you can't get away here. But so the opportunity to play those guys the number of snaps that they got to play last week, I think it's going to pay tremendous dividends for us going forward and for them going forward, because the only way they're going to get better is to actually get out there and have an opportunity to play. I think you see the Camel kid, he made some plays last week, and he's been getting better, every week, and that's the challenge, to be better tomorrow than we were today. So, that's the thing that we try to stress in that room, that, it's a process. We have to trust the process and keep moving forward.
Coach, I know you're going to get healthier there on the interior, but until you do, how important is it that those young kids come along? I guess how difficult is it for guys like Bryson and Dom to play 60 snaps in an SEC game like they did a couple weeks ago? How much do you need some depth?
Those guys, man, I've been very, pleased and proud of the way, Eason and Bailey have stepped up and the things that they've done, in the absence of some guys, So, I know it's a little bit different style than what we've been able to do in the past where we had, more numbers, and moving, Dom inside when Jackson went down, we just made the decision that was the best thing for this team, for us to put the best lineup out there on the field. Was for us to be able to move him inside and move the Weathersby kid and West and get those guys more reps. And then also it gave us an opportunity to get Dye more quality reps. So we just tried strategically, do the things that we needed to do. And I think the Robinson kid is coming along. I've been pleased with how he's played thus far. And then, like I said, I thought, this past week, Campbell taking that next step, So we just need for guys to continue to improve and get better so we can take, some wear and tear. So it's good to be able to get those guys, younger guys, more reps this past week.
What's your evaluation of your pass rush off the edge, specifically with those Leos like Josephs, Herring, and Ross?
I think, those guys have done a really good job, of affecting the quarterback and, in some crucial situations too. So, I think, obviously we need to all continue to get better, if we're going to truly, be a good front, we have to be able to affect the quarterback with a four-man rush, at times, not having to bring five and all that. And if we can do that with our twist games and those things right there, it'll help us be a better defense.
Coach, you talked about Dom sliding inside. I know he's played inside situationally in the past, but what's the toughest part of that transition of being a more full-time interior guy going from in which he played most of his career?
Well, I'm not saying he's going to be, just a full-time interior guy. He's a guy that can do both. So as guys get healthy, you get guys back. Obviously he gives us flexibility to be able to do with some different things. We did, all last year, in the Rabbits package, mostly it was him and Omar that played inside. So he had inside reps. Yeah, they were mainly on third down situations. So, this year he's had to take more first and second down reps in there. So, I definitely, think that he will be the Swiss Army knife type of guy that can do both. And we've got to continue to take advantage of that.
Coach, going up against a veteran quarterback, fifth-year guy, playing college football with his home crowd. How important is it for your line to get pressure on him, and how are you guys going to be able to make him uncomfortable?
Well, like I told him, this is going to be a very good football team, a great environment to go into. And none of these guys, unfortunately, have had an opportunity to play in Starkville, which I told them is a very unique place with the cowbells and all that stuff. It's going to be a great environment, and obviously this guy's a really good football player. And they have a really good scheme. So, we've got to make sure that we're focusing on our fundamentals and our technique and that we've got to play, mistake-free football. I thought last week we took a step forward in playing cleaner, because that's one of the things, I think against UGA, I thought the guys played really hard, but we didn't play very smart. So it was good for us to have an opportunity to go out there and play smarter this past weekend, and hopefully that we can build on that because, they're a big offensive line. They're gigantic. So they've got some really big men, and the quarterback's a really good player, and they got really good running backs and good receivers. So it's going to be a big challenge. So we're going to have to be the best version of us. Come Saturday.
Just with Dom Bailey moving inside, how do you assess what you've gotten from the two Tyrees at defensive end with an increased snap load?
Well, I think Weathersby had a really good game, the first game against Syracuse. He played really well, and then he gets banged up, and then Wes goes out. He has a really good game. He gets banged up, so we got to just be able to stack some good on some good, But I think both of those Tyrees, we're a better football team when we can get them at full speed.
With the tempo that they run, you guys see it at practice. Your offense does that as well. What kind of how different is their tempo versus what you guys are used to practicing against?
I think they're very similar. I think Coach Levy obviously worked with Coach Hype at Central Florida, so it's something that we've been preparing for. Obviously it's going to be challenging. It always is. Even though you try to do it in practice, it's still hard to simulate actual real-time reps even in practice. So it's going to be a challenge. We got to make sure that we're hydrated. We got to get back, get our eyes set. We got to get them the calls quickly so they can get their feet and eyes set so they can key and diagnose pre-snap so we can be more efficient and play better and play smarter.
They've ran the ball successfully all year long. When you schematically, is it different than anything you guys have seen to this point? Kind of what's the challenge of their run game?
Well, like I said, they're very similar to us. Everybody, thinks it's just fun and gun, but we run the ball very successfully, and these offenses, they mimic each other. So that's why they're successful, because they have a really good run game. So, we've got to fit our gaps. We got to be gap sound. We've got to win some one-on-one blocks. They do a great job at the point of attack on their combos and moving the first level, keeping their eyes to the second level. So we've got to be able to anchor, don't get displaced, and all that. It's going to be a big challenge, for us, obviously up front. But we've got to, if you're going to play in this league, that's what you got to do. We got to play at our best level.
Thank you.
All right.